get to some late breaking news late Wednesday afternoon when we found out that USC is going to bring back Clay Helton as head coach. And this is something that we've kind of periodically talked about throughout this, on this show, really throughout the last 6 months. I mean, even dating back to the spring, I remember the story where Reggie Bush said that he was going to be recruiting Urban Meyer when they were working together on Fox. And it seemed like an inevitability that Clay Helton would not be back after this year, that Urban Meyer would be in. And now it's completely swung 180 the other way, or 360 the other way, really, with Urban Meyer. It looks like he's going to be in the media here for a while. And Clay Helton, USC officially announced that they will bring him back for the 2020 season. And it's one of those deals where, I'll be honest, I actually see both sides to the argument. And so for the people who don't want Clay Helton back, it's very simple. Clay Helton went 8-4 this year, and while 8-4 gets the job done at a lot of places, it's kind of like what Nick Coffey and I talked about with Jim Harbaugh the other day. 8-4 doesn't get the job done at USC. USC is a program that when they are operating at the highest level, they should be competing for national championships. They should be competing for college football playoff berths. And so I do understand the frustration of a USC fan today that's like, dude, I get it. We went 8-4. Big deal. We're not Oregon State. We're not Vanderbilt. We're not Washington. We're not Washington State. We're not Arizona. We don't celebrate 8-win seasons the same way that Kentucky basketball and North Carolina basketball don't celebrate going to the Sweet 16. We have higher standards. We expect bigger things. And so that is mostly the argument from USC fans within LA. I'm telling you, I live in LA. There are not very many people that are happy with this move. But I would also use the counter, which is something that I have kind of talked about on this show probably over the last 2 or 3 weeks, which is I know you want better than Clay Helton, but I also think that this is a guy that is owed right around a $20 million buyout. And if you're not positive that you can get one of those A++ candidates, I think you keep him around for another year. One, because you just went 8-4, and two, because do you really want to pay $20 million to send him packing without the guarantee that you're going to get one of those guys that you want? And I will tell you this, USC's season actually ended 2 Saturdays ago. They did not play this last Saturday. So it's been about 10 days since the USC season ended, and I feel pretty confident saying that USC did in fact kick the tires on, say, a James Franklin, on some of the other big-name sitting head coaches. And I just think that between the $20 million they would have had to pay Clay Helton, between whatever buyout those guys are owed, and then between the $6, $7, $8 million it would take to get a James Franklin to USC, to get whoever that other guy would be, I just don't think they were confident that they could get that guy. I would also add this. I have been told here in Los Angeles that the thirst for Urban Meyer at USC is not nearly as high as it's been reported in the media. For people who don't know, USC has a new athletic director, but also a new school president. The school president is a female. Her name is Carol Holt. Carol Folt, excuse me. I don't know a ton about her, but everything that I've heard is this. One, she's an academic. She's not a sports person. She's not a person that's going to come in and shake things up, and winning a national championship in football is of the utmost importance to her. That's really important, but in the grand scheme of the university, her job isn't to focus on athletics, it's to focus on the university as a whole. But two, and this is the important part, I've been told that she's not all that keen on bringing in Urban Meyer, considering how he left Ohio State, considering that he left under a cloud of, did he help cover up domestic violence? And that whole thing's been litigated, and you can read about it online, and I'm not going to get into what did Urban Meyer know, what didn't he know, what should he have done, what shouldn't he have done. But he had a guy on his staff that was accused of domestic violence, that there was police reports and all kinds of stuff that you can read about, and Urban Meyer kept that guy on staff. And some of it, has been proven to be maybe a little overblown and not 100% factually correct, but I don't believe that at this moment in time, a female president wanted her first major move as school president to be to bring Urban Meyer to campus. I would also add that this also comes in a climate where USC is actually paying out, and you can Google all this stuff. I'm not going to get into all of it because it's very sensitive material, but there was a doctor that committed some very egregious acts People have taken, they've sued the school, and the school is currently paying out hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits to these victims of this doctor. And I don't think USC, on top of that, wanted to bring in a coach with a history with kind of sketchy domestic violence-ish type accusations, and on top of that, pay $20 million on top of that to Clay Helton. And so when you add all that up, I think that all plays a factor into why Clay Helton remains the head coach at USC. I get why USC fans are mad, but I would also ask this. I think people might be asking the wrong question. They're saying, we need this big, splashy, big-name hire. Come save USC football. What if you're asking the wrong question? What if, and this is going to sound crazy, what if the next head coach, the next great USC head coach, is actually already on the staff? It sounds preposterous, right? Like you're like, AT, what are you talking about? That makes absolutely no steps. That makes absolutely no sense. In the process, we kind of also have to redefine what a good coach in modern college football is, because I was thinking about this as it pertains to USC. The reason that USC went 8-4 this year, it's not because Clay Helton turned into Pete Carroll overnight or Nick Saban overnight or even Ed Orgeron or Kirby Smart overnight. It's because he got smart and he hired the best offensive coordinator he could, a guy named Graham Harrell. Graham Harrell brings the air raid offense to USC. All of a sudden, USC's throwing the ball all over the park. They're scoring a bunch of points. They win a bunch of games. They go 8-4. They go 8-4 because of Graham Harrell, not because of Clay Helton. And so when I ask, is the best candidate for the job not Urban Meyer, not James Franklin, but already on staff, let's think about the big picture of college football right now. Who is the last guy that went out and got hired from the outside that has been a home run, grand slam, whatever? Maybe Dan Mullen, maybe Kirby Smart. I don't know, but what I do know is this. Look at the playoff picture right now. Look at the 4-5 teams that are in the playoff mix. Think about it. You have Dabo Swinney, who was the interim head coach at Clemson, got elevated to the head coach, and now has built him into a juggernaut. You had Ed Orgeron, who Jacob Hester just told you was the interim head coach, takes over, turns him into a juggernaut. Oh, by the way, Ryan Day was the offensive coordinator, brilliant play caller, elevated from within. And Lincoln Riley was elevated from within at Oklahoma. And so at the very least, you are going to have 3 coaches in this college football playoff. Ryan Day, who was promoted from within, and Ed Orgeron and Dabo Swinney, who were both interim head coaches at one point. And so why do I bring it up? It's because maybe the smart move for USC, and I'm not even saying they're planning this, but just think about it like this. What if Graham Harrell could be the Lincoln Riley or Ryan Day of USC? What if, and again, I don't think USC planned it, but rather than spending $20 million to get rid of Clay Helton, rather than spending another $10 million or whatever it's going to be to buy out James Franklin plus another $75 million guaranteed to get him, you bring Clay Helton back for one season. And if he starts out 2-3, you cut bait right there. And one, you're saving a little bit of money on the buyout money, so it's a little bit more that you can give to the next coach. And then you give Graham Harrell 6 games or 8 games or 10 games or whatever it is to see if he can be that Ryan Day or Lincoln Riley, to see if he has that head coaching gene, to see if he can be that brilliant offensive mind. You go spend a bunch of money on the defensive side of the ball like Oklahoma's done and Ohio State's done, and you let Graham Harrell run the offense as the head coach. It sounds crazy, but what if the next head coach, rather than guaranteeing $60 or $70 or $80 million to James Franklin, rather than bringing Urban Meyer, who's 55 years old, and he'll be 56 by the time he takes the head coaching job, if it were a season from now, what if you just wait and you get Graham Harrell and you see if he's the guy? Now, there are obviously complicating factors. Graham Harrell could, in theory, get a head coaching job this year. He could get another offensive coordinator's job this year. Texas is said to be interested in interviewing him. I tend to think that it would be a weird move for him to go to Texas. I know he's originally from Texas, but look, I don't think Tom Herman's seat is significantly cooler than Clay Helton's. You've been at USC for a year. You know the guys, you know the personnel, and you can just pick up where you left off next year because USC brings back practically everybody. So I just think this is kind of a fascinating subplot that nobody's talking about. But what if Graham Harrell can be USC's version of Ryan Day or Lincoln Riley? And what if the best guy for this job is already on this staff? I just think that in this world, in this climate of college football, everybody's looking for the big-name head coach. Big-name head coaches generally don't leave good jobs. I mean, think about the Florida State situation with Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops is making like $5 million a year. His buyout's pretty substantial. So you're going to have to pay Mark Stoops more than $5 million a year, even at Florida State, which is a great job. It's like it's hard for Florida State to get guys to leave other good jobs because the money is so good. I think it's a fascinating thing to watch. I don't know if it'll work. I don't even think this was USC's plan when they decided to retain Clay Helton, but I do think it is something that is worth watching.